In this video, I'm going to introduce you to the idea of presence. So, what is it? Well, most people, especially guys who are introverts, are often living in their heads instead of being present with the girl or the person that they're talking to. So, by living in your head, I mean that when you're talking to somebody, you're probably thinking about something that happened in the past. You might be thinking about what you're going to say in the future. Your attention might be taken up by some other idea that you're thinking about, and so on and so forth. So it's always about the past, the future, about some other thought, and very rarely are most people actually holding their attention with whoever they're talking to. So by being present to the moment when you're talking to a woman and putting your full attention onto the girl, this is one of the best tricks I know of to create comfort and connection. See, basically, the way I think about presence when it comes to creating connection is that it comes down to non-evaluative listening. So when you're listening to somebody speak, are you really listening, or are you only listening partially? Well, chances are you're probably judging what she's saying, you're interpreting it, you're worrying about what you're going to say next to relate to what she said, etc. In fact, even as you're listening to me speak during this video, probably you're not completely present. Your attention is sometimes onto the words that I'm saying, but then sometimes you're relating it back to maybe a conversation that you had in the past. You're thinking if you agree or if you disagree with what I'm saying, and so on. So to be present, you need to switch from that type of living in your head and that type of evaluative listening into a type of listening where it's really about putting your attention onto her without judging or evaluating, just simply having your attention and awareness on the woman. This is actually a technique that the best therapists use to enter a state of deep comfort and connection with their clients very quickly. So non-evaluative listening means listening so deeply that it's almost like you're experiencing the feelings and the point of view that she has at this moment. Because when you're paying very careful attention, when you're doing active listening to what she's saying, you can pick up on all these little facial expressions, all these little changes in her voice that you wouldn't be able to if you were only partially listening, like, what 95% of people do in conversations. In psychology, this type of listening, this type of presence is called emotional attunement. It means you're trying to get totally in tune with her emotional experience and subjective view of the world. You're listening to what she's saying very carefully, and you're feeling why she's saying it at the same time. The reason why this technique is so powerful is because I think almost everyone in the world is a little bit paranoid that they're not special. I mean, there's 6 or 7 billion people in the world. A lot of them are probably very similar to everyone else. So everyone has like this paranoia that they're not unique, that they're not special. So they do all these things to try to get attention, like posting funny things on Facebook, trying to buy clothes to stand out, trying to find a unique style, trying to have a quirky personality. So, everyone is trying to get this feeling of significance or specialness. And by being able to give a girl this experience of feeling seen and understood, this type of listening is almost addictive. In fact, I believe one of the reasons why a lot of people often go back to therapists again and again and again It's because the therapist is actually someone who's willing to listen to them, and the therapist is willing to listen to the person without selfishness, and they're just giving their full attention to that person. Again, when you can learn to use this type of listening with the girl that you're talking to, and you can learn to be present to the moment when you're talking to her, it's going to create a very, very powerful experience and a very deep feeling of comfort and connection. So the way to be able to do this type of emotional attunement or non-evaluative listening is that you have to ground yourself. You have to ground your attention to the present moment. And here's the big secret. You can't think your way into being present. In other words, just by hearing me tell you that you should stop thinking and you should be present, it's not going to do anything. What you really need is to learn to use different practical techniques to get out of your mind and to put your attention onto the present reality of what's going on right in front of you. And I'll show you some of these techniques in just a minute. By the way, this idea of being in the present moment is actually why I personally do 20 minutes of meditation almost every morning after my morning shower. See, I'm naturally a very heavy thinker and a fairly intellectual person. So by doing meditation, it allows me to stay more grounded and it brings me back to the present moment. I think if I didn't do meditation, I'd often just be stuck daydreaming and thinking almost all day long. So now I'm going to share with you a couple of practical techniques from meditation and mindfulness that you can use when you're talking to the girl that you like in order to be able to stay present with her. The first technique is body awareness. So here's an exercise that you can do. As you're listening to me in this video, put part of your attention onto the soles of your feet, the bottom of your feet, and simply feel how does it feel at the bottom of your feet. Now, you don't need to think about this. You don't need to label or judge or interpret the feeling. The only thing that's important for you to do is to just stay with the physical sensation at the bottom of your feet as you're hearing me speak. When you can pay attention to a part of your physical body as you're speaking to somebody, it's gonna help you become a lot more present to the moment. See, when you put your attention into the bottom of your feet, or really any other part of your body, what you're doing is part of your attention is brought into the present moment. So you probably don't really ever pay much conscious attention into that sensation at the bottom of your feet. So by putting your attention there, and by keeping your attention there for at least a minute or two, you're waking yourself up. You're getting more out of your thinking mind, and you're able to put more of your attention into exactly what's going on right in front of you. And if you don't feel a huge change doing this technique as you're listening to this video, you should keep in mind that it usually takes at least several tries before you actually get the hang of this. So what I'd encourage you to do is to go back and to try this technique today or tomorrow and over the next couple weeks many different times. Whenever you're walking somewhere, try to put your attention into the bottom of your feet as you're walking, and try to hold your attention onto that sensation without thinking about it too much. The more you can do this, the more you'll notice that it actually changes your experience of life, having your attention in the present moment, in the situation that you're in, instead of having your attention being taken up by your thinking process. And if you can remember to do this technique as you're talking to somebody, and especially as you're talking to a woman in the connection phase of conversation, I'm sure you're going to find, as I found, that the conversation is going to transform into something completely different. When I started using these techniques for being present to the moment as I talked to girls in the connection part of the conversation, I found that they'd often become a lot more comfortable with me very quickly, because they could tell that I was giving them that feeling of significance, and I wasn't thinking about what I was going to say next. I was simply paying attention to her. This body awareness technique is actually a mindfulness technique, and a lot of forms of therapy actually use techniques like this one to help dissolve emotions like anxiety, nervousness, or self-consciousness over time. So not only is this technique good for becoming present to the moment, but it can actually help you a lot with dissolving emotions like nervousness or self-consciousness. So whenever you feel those types of negative emotions, for example, when you're talking to a girl, try to hold your awareness or attention into your body. How does that nervousness or self-consciousness actually feel inside? And the key is that you don't want to start labeling or judging the feelings. You just want to watch it with awareness and acceptance. So if you're feeling nervous or anxious, how does it feel? Does it feel like tightness in your chest, or maybe it feels like a weird feeling in your stomach, or maybe there's like tightness in your shoulders? However it feels, try to keep your attention onto that feeling and just watch it with like a type of curiosity without even trying to make it go away. By doing this type of awareness or mindfulness, you can actually help yourself to deal with these type of negative emotions over time. The second technique for presence that I'm going to show you is breath awareness. So as you're listening to me in this video, put part of your attention onto your breathing. Now, you don't need to change the way you breathe at all. Keep in mind that this is an attention exercise, so don't change the way that you breathe. Just pay attention to how you're breathing. I'll just pause for a couple seconds so that you can do this. Now, even as I keep talking, try to keep part of your attention onto your breathing. I know that for most people, it's tempting to only do this technique for about 2 seconds, because most people think that breathing is boring. See, but by staying with it, by paying attention to something as boring as breathing, and learning to pay very close attention, even to all those little sensations associated with breathing, like, the feeling of your breath on your nose or in your mouth, or how it feels to have your chest rise up and down as you're breathing. How does your breathing feel at the beginning, then at the middle, then at the end of your breathing? By holding your attention there, you can train your attention to focus on the present. And you can even do this technique when you're talking to somebody. As you're listening to them speak, put part of your attention onto your breathing. And by doing this, you'll be able to keep your attention in the moment. And you'll have less attention taken up by trying to think of what to say next, or thinking of something that happened in the past. So pay attention to your breathing, and this is going to pull your attention out of your mind, and it's going to make it easier to pay more attention to your surrounding and present environment. It can also be very useful for relaxation, because when you're nervous, I've mentioned this before, when people get nervous, they often stop breathing without realizing it, or they start to breathe very shallowly. So by paying attention to your breathing, you can notice this reaction happening, and you can sort of rewire it. You can keep breathing in a deep and comfortable way. See, right now, when you feel things like anxiety, nervousness, or awkwardness, these are all automatic reactions that your mind has to a certain stimulus. In this case, the stimulus is a girl that you think is attractive. If you can first become aware of this reaction happening, so for example, you see a cute girl and you become aware of your automatic reaction of, say, breathing more shallowly, or, you stop breathing, or maybe your body tenses up in certain ways. If you can first become aware of that reaction and then overcome that reaction by relaxing, by breathing deeply, you can actually break that habitual pattern. And if you can break your body's habitual reactions to stimuluses like a cute girl, then this is how you can stop feeling nervous. And it all starts with the way that you pay attention. All right, so this type of technique of breath awareness can be very, very powerful if you use it properly. So don't be fooled by its simplicity. And the last technique I'm going to show you for becoming present in a conversation with a girl, or showing her that you're listening to her in a non-evaluative way, is by using comfortable pauses. One of my big breakthroughs when it came to talking to girls is when I realized that I didn't need to fill every break in the conversation, especially in the connection stage when you and the girl are probably sitting together and talking. See, if you two are having a good conversation and then there's a pause in the conversation, that pause is only going to feel weird or creepy to her if you start to tense up, if you start to look terrified, or you look uncomfortable with the pause. Silences are only awkward if you make them awkward. On the other hand, if you can focus on keeping your body relaxed and comfortable, the pause will not be awkward 90% of the time. In fact, a technique that I've figured out is that holding strong eye contact and holding your attention on the girl during a pause can actually do more for attraction, for comfort, and for sexual tension between you two than words ever could. It's extremely, extremely powerful. Alright, so it's definitely a mistake to try to always fill every pause in the conversation. It's much better to occasionally put a pause into the conversation. The type of pause that you probably wouldn't do if you're talking to a friend. And when you do a longer type of pause, she's going to look into your eyes and she's going to see that you're relaxed and comfortable. And holding this type of prolonged eye contact in the right way, and holding this type of prolonged eye contact in a comfortable way, without saying anything, is going to create such a spark, especially with certain types of girls, that it's just going to be incredibly, incredibly powerful. She's going to feel a lot of chemistry with you if you can hold that pause. Because, again, that pause demonstrates that you are present with her. You're not thinking about what to say next. You're simply not talking, but you're still holding your attention on her. I hope that makes sense. Now, I hope that this video gave you a good overview of presence, of being present to the moment, and how listening to her in this certain way can be very, very powerful for creating comfort and connection quickly. I am going to talk more about presence in future videos, like being present when you approach and being present as you're escalating to sex, because this is a very core idea to almost every part of becoming attractive, because it's going to make you a lot more charismatic. But I hope in this video you've gotten some very practical techniques that you can go and you can start to try out. I really do encourage you to start to use body awareness and breath awareness, not just when you're talking to girls or even when you're talking to people. Even when you're walking around, take a minute just to do these techniques and practice bringing your attention to the present moment and becoming present. And if this idea sounds interesting to you and you want to learn more about mindfulness, about awareness, about being present to the moment, then I'd highly, highly encourage you to pick out a book called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. In that book, he explains how most people's lives are spent thinking and living in the mind and being caught up in thinking about the past or projecting into the future. And very few people are actually able to be present to the moment. So that's a very, very good book, I think, to get you started on living more in the present, in the moment. That's The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And if you're interested in meditation and in starting to do a daily meditation practice for maybe 15 or 20 minutes every morning like I do, you should really check out a book called Mindfulness in Plain English. That book is going to teach you all the practical steps of how to do meditation in a way that's not spiritual. So it has nothing really to do with religion. It just covers the practical techniques of how to do mindfulness or meditation. And for me personally, meditation has totally changed my life. Not just in this way of being more present to the moment, but it also makes me feel much more relaxed. It lowers feelings of anxiety. It makes me feel happier. For sure, before I often felt depressed. Now I don't really feel that nearly as much. And I think meditation is a huge part of how I managed to increase my overall emotional well-being and happiness. In fact, many recent scientific studies have found that meditation has all these different benefits related to anxiety, depression, happiness, even physical health. So if you're interested in doing meditation to help you become even more relaxed and comfortable in social situations, then I highly recommend you check out that book called Mindfulness in Plain English. Or you could even search the internet for mindfulness or how to do meditation, and I'm sure you'll find plenty of great websites that'll give you step-by-step directions. It's not that it's difficult to do meditation. The most difficult part is simply making it a habit and doing it every single day for 15 or 20 minutes. The biggest benefits I've found coming from meditation is after I've been doing it for a few weeks or a couple months at a time. So it takes dedication, but the payoffs are really, really great.